Hey guys, it's Cece, and today I'm here to talk about every 2018 release that I read. So I will be talking about some of these books in my most disappointing books of the year and my favorite books of the year videos. But after looking at both of those lists, I decided that I wanted to have a video completely dedicated to talking about 2018 releases, just so that I can chat more about what the releases looked like this year, so I can chat about which most anticipated books I read. So I have 25 books to talk about. I read one of those in 2017. So I read one of these books, a 2018 arc, at the end of 2017, but the rest were all read over the course of 2018. And we are going to do these in order of how I rated the books. So we are going to start with the books that I've rated the lowest, work up to my highest rated, and chat a little bit more about what I thought about every single book. So yeah, I think that that's pretty much it. Let's get started talking about 2018 books! So the first book I want to talk about is The Only Harmless Great Thing by Brooke Bolander. I received this book as an ARC and I wound up giving it 2 out of 5 stars. It is a novella that is partially from the point of view of a group of elephants. It's sort of a novella about the destructive power of humankind and the way that those destructive things end up affecting other lives. Basically, the problem that I had with this novella was that I found it confusing. It was good, but it took me until the end of the story to figure out what was even going on, and I just had a hard time getting into it because of that. The next book I want to talk about is Kingdom of the Blazing Phoenix by Julie C. Dow. I received this book as a review copy and wound up giving it like 2.75 out of 3 stars. This is the much-awaited follow-up to Forest of a Thousand Lanterns. It is the second half of a East Asian-inspired fairy tale retelling. The first book followed the evil queen character of the Snow White story, and the second book, Kingdom of the Blazing Phoenix, followed the Snow White character. Mostly my problem with this book is that it just does not live up to the quality of the first one. The first one was complex and fascinating about a character who frequently does wrong, and while a Snow White character cannot be like that, I ultimately found myself bored at multiple points throughout this story. The characters and the plot were weaker than the original, and it left me feeling let down, especially after how much I loved Forest of a Thousand Lanterns. Next, I want to talk about The Prince and Her Dreamer by Kayla Bash. I received this book as an e-arc from the author and wound up giving it around 2.75 or 3 out of 5 stars. This is an incredibly short novella that is a retelling of The Nutcracker, and at the center of the story is a female-female romance. Mostly the frustrations with this novella came from the fact that I think it was far too short. It's about 75 pages long, and yet there are multiple sequences that are supposed to be huge battles, so there's really no lead up to those scenes, and it also doesn't leave you a lot of time to get to know the characters. It just felt like a rushed storyline, and there were a lot of times that I would be reading a scene and then go, wait, what's even going on? How did we get here already? Next, I want to talk about Meet Cute, which is edited by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I gave this book an average of 3 out of 5 stars. This was decided upon by rating all of the stories in the anthology, adding them together, dividing them, and getting around a 3. This is an ultimately very uneven set of short stories about love and romance, about meet cutes. I super appreciated the number of female-female romances that were included in this anthology. I was, however, a little frustrated by the complete lack of male-male romances. I think anthologies are a great time to get a huge, diverse collection of people together, and I feel like that didn't happen quite as much as I would have wanted to. There are a lot of stories that feature people of color as main characters, and that was nice, but it just felt really all over the place. The quality was hugely up and down, and so while there were some that I absolutely adored, like the story by Emery Lord, there were a lot of downsides, which is why I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. Next, I want to talk about American Panda by Gloria Chow. I was sent a hardcover copy of this book for review, and I wound up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. It is about a Taiwanese girl who is starting her freshman year at MIT, and she is struggling more and more as she realizes that the things that her parents expect of her are not going to be able to be things that she is able to do. It's a story about culture, about expectation, about family relationships, and it did a really good job of all of those things. The thing that made me give this book 3 out of 5 stars was mainly the fact that I felt that the main character had a very young voice that frequently pulled me out of the story. She's supposed to be about 17 and she sounded more like she was 13. It just meant that I had a hard time getting into the narration of the story. Overall, it covers the topics that it wants to cover well. It was just difficult to differentiate that from the struggles that I was having with the narration. Now moving on to Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli. I pre-ordered my own copy of this book and wound up giving it a very generous 3 out of 5 stars. This is the senior year spin-off follow-up to Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda, and it follows Leah. I had a lot of problems with this book overall, which is why it's a generous 3 stars. Those 3 stars are for the moments where I was able to enjoy Leah's story, the moments where I was able to see some of the characterization of characters from Simon versus. Stars were taken off because often the characterization of those characters felt distinctly different from the first book, and I felt like instead of just making it about a new character, it completely disregarded characters that you'd already come to love, or really reduced them to 2D versions of themselves. I also have a very big problem with how this book ends, which is super spoilerific, so I'm not going to talk about it. I did at one point write about the problems that I had, so I will link that down in the description below if you want to read more about my super spoilerific problems with Leah on the Offbeat. So while I praised the book for it having a fat bisexual main character who was struggling with a parent starting to date someone new, which is a thing I really related to, I had a lot of problems with the way that sexuality was handled and the way the characters from Simon versus were handled. It just felt all over the place. Next, I want to talk about The Apocalypse of Elena Mendoza by Sean David Hutchinson. I received this book as an ARC and wound up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. This book is about a girl named Elena who discovers she has the ability to heal people. My problem with this book was mainly that I never really felt connected to any of the characters, which is probably more of a personal reason than an actual reason. It is a lot of internal struggles within a character as she is deciding what to do, what she wants to do, what she wants to say. And while that is something that I often enjoy in books, in fact, it is something that I loved about Sean David Hutchinson's other book, We Are the Ants, I just couldn't get behind how repetitive this book was, and I couldn't get to know the characters the way I wanted to. Everything had a real distance to it, which is why even when things were emotional, I still just couldn't bring myself to be that invested. Next up, I want to talk about Nothing Happened by Molly Booth. I received this book as an e-arc and wound up giving it 3.5 out of 5 stars. This book is a retelling of Much Ado About Nothing by William Shakespeare. It is my favorite play by Shakespeare, and it is set at a summer camp. It was delightfully dramatic, exactly the way Much Ado About Nothing is, and over while reading it, I just kept thinking to myself, there would be no better way to get across the drama of Much Ado About Nothing than setting it at a summer camp for teens. It just makes sense. The romances were fun, it was over the top, and if you love Much Ado About Nothing, you're not going to be disappointed. Every single storyline is covered. It's a lot of fun, but it's not like a remarkable book that changes your life. So 3.5 stars. Now moving on to Chord by Chelsea M. Cameron. This is a companion novel to Style, which is a book of Chelsea's that I read a couple of summers ago. It is about 2 girls who become roommates their freshman year of college, who both insist they're straight despite the fact that they are clearly falling for one another. This book had a lot of positives, including how deeply inclusive it was. It features 2 main characters who are struggling to figure out their labels and ultimately don't decide on a label for themselves. It features a variety of side characters from so many sexualities and gender identities, and as a person who dealt with my sexuality by falling for a college roommate, it was relatable. I think it's predictable, but it's also really fun. It's just an enjoyable read that I do recommend, but again, wasn't like absolutely remarkable, which is why I gave it the rating that I did. Next, I want to talk about Summerbird Blue by Akemi Dawn Bowman. I received this hardcover book for review, and I wound up giving it 3.5 out of 5 stars. This is about a girl who knows that her entire life is going to be defined by her relationship to her sister. She knows that they want to write music together forever, and then her sister is killed in a tragic car accident, and she doesn't really know which direction her life is going to go. This book really has its strength in the second half. While the first half you find yourself sort of distant from the main character as she is so completely full of rage. The second half allows her to reconcile her rage, deal with the things that are valid, and maybe start to move on from the things that weren't. It's about grief and displacement and the difficulties of family. So while that first half is a little rough, the second half is really where it is strong, and that is why it got the rating that it did. Now I would like to talk about The Hazel Wood by Melissa Albert. I received this book for free in an Owl Crate box, and I wound up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. stars. This is about a girl who is haunted by the past of her grandmother, a grandmother who is famous for writing a very dark collection of fairy tales. When her mother is taken, she goes off on a journey to try to find her while also discovering some truths about her past. This is an incredibly dark but wonderful fairy tale book, so if you love fairy tales, I highly recommend it. It is beautifully written, and I think carries a fairy tale way of telling a story incredibly well, considering that a majority of this book is set in our world. As a lover of fairy tales, as a lover of dark fairy tales, this was everything I could have wanted, and I loved it. Now I want to talk about the second anthology I read this year, and that is All Out, edited by Sandra Mitchell. I purchased this copy of this book and wound up giving it an average of 4 out of 5 stars. This is a great collection if you love historical fiction and you want to read about queer human beings. It is set across time, it is written by queer authors, and I think as far as anthologies go, it is one of the better ones in terms of how I rated each story. Usually with anthologies, I have a hard time. There are some stories that I rate incredibly low and some stories that I rate high. This had a really good average rating. Plus, I discovered some new authors whose books I would love to read. It's just a really solid collection overall. Now moving on to Legend of Korra Turf Wars Parts 2 and 3. These are by Irene Coe and Michael Dante DiMartino. Part 1 was released in 2017, but Parts 2 and 3 did come out in 2018. I purchased Parts 2 and 3 with my own money and rated each of them 4 out of 5 stars. The story is set immediately following the finale of the Legend of Korra TV series, and in general gets more in depth into Korra and Asami's relationship and the struggles that began where the season ended. If you love Legend of Korra, these are perfect. They are just as strong as every other Avatar: The Last Airbender related comic I have ever read. The story is strong, it does a good job balancing all of the characters that you know and love. It does a great job with Korra and Asami's relationship. I absolutely loved all 3 parts, but of course loved parts 2 and 3 since they were released in 2018. Next, I want to talk about The Summer of Jordi Pettis by Amy Spalding. I received this book as an e-arc and rated it 4 out of 5 stars. This is a book about a girl who has always wanted to start her own plus-size fashion line, but when she finally gets the internship she has been dreaming of at a local boutique, she finds herself falling for her competition at the boutique. This is a perfect summer rom-com for girls. If you want to read about girls falling in love and it being dramatic and wonderful, this is the book. It is the book I have been dreaming of for this genre of female-female romance. Both girls are delightful, the story is wonderful, and while it has drama, while it has up and downs, it is ultimately an incredibly happy book I think we are so lucky to have in our lives. Next, I want to talk about Anger is a Gift by Mark Oshiro. I was originally sent this book as an ebook and then was later sent the hardcover copy, and I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. Of teens in Oakland, California who are struggling to deal with the fact that they are being treated like prisoners in their Oakland high school. This is an absolutely beautiful book. While it takes a little bit to get started and to relate to the characters, I think it really picks up in the last third of the story. I think the author struggles a little bit in writing relationships between characters that feel honest and realistic. His writing shines when he is dealing with incredibly difficult topics, when he's dealing with difficult scenes, and those moments make up for the more awkward feel of the scenes where characters are just talking to one another. It's also an incredibly diverse book. It is lovely in so many different ways, though incredibly heartbreaking, and please read trigger warnings for this book before you decide to read it yourself. But with all of that in mind, I absolutely loved it. Now I would like to talk about The Brilliant Death by Amy Rose Capetta. I was sent a hardcover copy of this for review and wound up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. This book is about a girl who has the ability to transform people into objects. But after someone sets out to murder her father, she has to learn how to transform herself into a boy in order to save her family. This is an exquisite political fantasy. It is also a romance between the main character and her gender-fluid love interest. It is the start of what is going to be an incredible series and is written in the most lush, gorgeous language. I would definitely compare it to the writing in something like The Hazel Wood. Just lovely, evocative, descriptive language on every single page. Also, Teodora and Cielo are one of my new favorite relationships of all time. I had so much fun reading this book. I also want to talk about Whole Metal Girls by Emily Skrutsky. I received this book as an e-arc and wound up rating it 4 out of 5 stars. This book is about two girls who find themselves becoming genetically engineered soldiers. One of them because it is her only chance to get the money that she needs to save her brother's life, and the other can't remember why she made this decision in the first place, considering the life she remembers was full of privilege. It features a hijabi, Arrow Ace main character and a Japanese main character, as well as having a lot of other people of color and queer people to the sidelines. It's about fighting against corruption, but learning that maybe neither side has it quite right, and mostly it is about a complex friendship between these two women who initially hate each other, and I absolutely loved every second of it. I also want to talk about Final Draft by Riley Redgate. I received this book as an e-arc and wound up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. This book features a plus-sized pansexual Ecuadorian girl. It is about the main character Layla knowing that she wants to write, but never feeling like she's been able to write something well until she gets a creative writing teacher that pushes her farther and farther outside her box in an attempt to get her to write new things. This is an incredible book for numerous reasons, mostly because I think that it is one of the books that helped me realize that I was going to need help with my mental health. It's a great complex story about the limits that people push themselves to for creativity and when it's possible you've gone too far. It's also got a really excellent female-female romance, and I loved it. I also want to talk about Next Year in Havana by Chanel Cleaton. I purchased this book with my own money and wound up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. This is about a woman named Marisol who is going to Havana in order to spread her grandmother's ashes. It is about her. It is also about her grandmother, who grew up in the 50s in Cuba. This is a romance. It is an insightful look at Cuba from many different time periods. It is gorgeously written, engaging, and features two relationships that are so wonderful to read even as they slowly break your heart. I loved this and I cannot wait to read the companion novel that is coming out in 2019. Next I want to talk about Let's Talk About Love by Claire Kahn. I originally read this book at the library and then purchased my own copy of it and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. This is about Alice, a biromantic ace girl who has decided she was going to spend her summer completely devoid of relationships until a new guy starts working at the library and she finds herself maybe falling for him. This book is deeply important, and I think it is going to be important to so many readers. It is a beautiful exploration of sexuality. It also deals with family relationships. It features a main character going to therapy. There are so many things that I love about Let's Talk About Love, mostly because it is going to be so important and because it was so important to me, so I highly recommend it. I also want to talk about Beneath the Sugar Sky by Shannon Maguire. I received this book as an arc and wound up giving it 4.5 out of 5 stars. This is the book that I read at the tail end of 2017, but it was released at the beginning of 2018. It is the third book in the Wayward Children's Companion series, and it follows a variety of new characters going on a new quest. I love absolutely everything about the Wayward Children series. You all know this. This is an excellent follow-up. I will say that of the 3 I have completed, this is my least favorite, but I have given them all the same rating because I find them all fabulous. Okay, 3 books left. Next I would like to talk about I Was Born for This by Alice Oseman. I was sent this book as a gift from a friend and I wound up giving it 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's about a girl named Angel who is obsessed with a band called The Ark. It is also about Jimmy, who is the frontman for The Ark. Alice Oseman writes unforgettably lovely main characters who are always dealing with anxiety, with struggling to fit in, and with finding a person in the world who understands them. This is also a lovely way to look at fandom and the way that we treat fandom, power that it can have, the power that it gives people who are within a fandom. It is an absolutely gorgeous book about loving things and about finding strength in other people who are also passionate. Next, I would like to talk about Check Please, #hockey, book 1. This is by Ngozi Ukazu. I purchased this copy of this book, I pre-ordered it, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. This is the bound version of the webcomic that follows Eric Biddle his freshman year at Samwell University. He is a baker, a vlogger, a figure skater, and now the newest member of Samwell's hockey team. He's also gay, and possibly falling for his brooding team captain. This is a delightful story about college, about finding true friends who accept you. It's adorable and wonderful, and it features one of my favorite romances of all time, and I I've talked about this book enough throughout the year. You all know I love it, and it's wonderful, and I beg you to read Check Please and to get ready for the second half that will be coming out in 2019, because, guys, year 3 was amazing, and I am currently dying over year 4. And the final book that I want to talk about is Darius the Great is Not Okay by Adib Khorram. I received this book as an ARC, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. This is about a boy named Darius who has always felt very distanced from his Persian roots. His father is American, and his mother is Persian, and he has never felt connected to that side of himself. And then when his grandfather's health begins to fail, him and his entire family go on a trip to Iran, and Darius struggles to connect with family he's never known and becomes friends with a boy down the road. The main character of this book is biracial. He is also fat and has been dealing with depression for his entire life. He's also possibly queer, but that's not really addressed in the context of this book. It's been described as kind of a pre-coming out story, so if you're going in for queer rep, you have to kind of read between the lines, but it's mostly because this book isn't about that. It is about Darius trying to connect with his family and trying to understand why his brain works the way it does. This is one of my favorite books that I have absolutely ever read. I cried from beginning to end. I think the first time I cried was on page 27. It took 27 pages for this book to make me cry, and I cried down until the last page. It's gorgeously written. It is a wonderful story about a wonderful character. I adore it in every conceivable way, and I can't recommend it enough. Okay guys, that is it. We are finally at the end. Those are all of the 2018 releases that I have read. What were some of your favorite 2018 releases? Let me know down in the comments below. Let me know if you read any of these books and what you thought about them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!